And we're live.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to day three of Rewire Your Brain, our little workshop, 3-day workshop, Memory Reconsolidation. And today
Yes.
we're actually going to jump into the rewiring technique. So, Odile, if you wouldn't mind starting us off again with a bit of a
Yes.
review and
Absolutely.
jump into some rewiring.
All right. Absolutely. So, hello, Madrone77. Nice to see you here live. Thanks for being here. All right. So, on day one, we went over the foundation of what memory reconsolidation is, how it works, and why we especially use it for changing implicit childhood memories. So if you haven't seen day one, do go and watch that first. Um, and then day two, we took you through the detective work. So how to find the specific implicit childhood memories that are at the root of the problems you want to solve in your life now, in yourself and your life. Hi, Zane Kane. Nice to see you here live. And so today we're going to take you through the process of
Hmm.
changing those memories. So hopefully, if you followed along with day two, you've got a list of memories, or at least one memory, that you can change. Now, very importantly, we don't want to do trauma memories for this purpose. We do have a process for changing trauma memories, and I will put the link to that in the description of this video. But for today, as you follow along with us here, pick a memory that is not very strong. So just a word on trauma or trauma memories, it's going to be different for different people. So for one person, the same event, the same experience could be traumatic. For another person, the same event and experience may not be traumatic. And the way to tell is if when you think about the memory, the negative emotions are a 7 or higher on a scale of 0 to 10. So when you think of the negative memory without going into it, just think of it. 0 to 10, if the negative emotions are stronger than about a 6 or 7, then you think then don't do that one for now. You can use the trauma protocol for that, and again, I'll put the link in the description for that. So for today, we're going to pick a memory that doesn't have a very strong negative emotions, so that you can learn the process. And so you'll need a subject, and for that subject, it needs to be someone or something that you love. And so it could be a person or an animal, it could be your pet or just animals that you think are cute. And if you can't think of an animal or person, you can use a place like the beach or a forest or that kind of thing, or a specific place like Hawaii, or you can use an activity. So, like, football or, dancing or gardening or something like that. So whatever it is, whatever you choose for your subject, make sure that it's not, that there are no negative connotations, no negative attachments. So you'll want something that when you think of it, it's only good feelings. You could use a song as well, a song or music that you love. So make sure that it's something that only feels good, so no longing or missing or regret or worry or anything like that. So an example of that is, somebody was using their cat as the subject, but the cat had passed away a couple of years before. So, obviously that's not a good, and they were still missing the cat. So then that's not the best
Could
subject. They needed to use something else.
could I just hop in real
Yeah.
quickly here?
Yes.
Just for somebody who may be brand new to this and what we're doing, um, the reason for getting a
Oh, I'm
subject
about to
right now.
explain that. Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm about to explain that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So I just wanted to say what they're going to need, and then I'll explain why. So you'll need that, and then you'll need your memory that you're going to change, the memory you want to change. And if you have a list of memories from the detective work from yesterday, go with the earliest one, as long as the temperature isn't too high, the intensity of the negative emotions isn't too high. So the way this process works is we are going to, stage one is we're going to bring down the negative charge of the negative memory. And the way we do that is we use your own brain chemistry to do that. So as you think of the negative memory, that's neurons connecting, as I mentioned on day one, and those connections between neurons, as you think of that memory, produce stress chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol, and that's how you feel those negative emotions. It's caused those negative emotions are caused by the stress chemicals. So as you think of something, the negative memory or anything else that you're worried about or you don't like or whatever, that's connections between neurons pumping stress chemicals into your system. We are going to use what we call the beginner's exercise, which is a little brain chemistry exercise where you will be connecting neurons in a positive way, producing feel-good chemicals like endorphin, serotonin, and oxytocin. So we're going to go through that, and that's what you need your subject for. I'll teach you that little exercise. We'll go through it a couple of times, and then we're going to use it to bring down the negative emotions in the negative memory, and then we will change the memory itself. So, because while the negative emotions are high, your brain is likely to not let you change the memory because it feels dangerous. All right. So, if you can't think of a sorry, you can't think of a subject for your for this little beginner's exercise, press pause on this video until you're able to think, until you've got something. And if you can't think of anything, put it in the chat or the comments, and we will help you find something. Okay, so let's begin with that little brain chemistry exercise. So take a deep breath, close your eyes. And I want you to start by thinking of your favorite color. And if you don't have a favorite, that's okay, just pick one you like. And imagine being surrounded by that beautiful color and feel the feeling of that color, everything you love about it. Very good. And now think of your subject, that animal, person, animal, place, or activity you love, or music you love, and imagine holding them in your arms in a hug. And notice where you feel the good feeling for this thing, the love for this thing. Notice where it may be in your chest or your solar plexus. Just notice where in your body you feel the good feeling, the love, the appreciation. Very good. And now, as you imagine hugging that thing and you notice the feeling, I want you to imagine that feeling as a ball of light or energy. And imagine it spreading down to your toes, to the top of your head, and out to your fingertips. So you're now full of that light, that energy, that love. Very good. Now press pause on that. And I want you to think of the negative memory. Don't go into it. Don't think about the details. Just notice as you think of that memory, how strong the negative emotions are. 0 to 10. 0, I can't feel anything. 10, it's very strong. It's very important not to spend time in that negative memory because each moment you spend in that memory, that's neurons connecting, producing stress chemicals. So you just want to notice. So it's like dipping your toe in a hot bath to see how hot the water is. You don't want to get into it yet. So notice as you think of that negative memory, how strong are the negative emotions, 0 to 10. Notice, and then press pause on that negative memory and come back to your color. So remember imagine being surrounded by that beautiful color. Feel the feeling of the color. Notice what you love about it. Very good. And now imagine hugging your subject. Notice that feeling in your chest or your solar plexus as you imagine hugging this person, animal, place, or activity you love. And think of all the things you love about it. So if it's a person or animal, have they ever done anything funny? And if it's an animal, remember how it feels, the furriness, the purring, or the snuffling, or whatever it is, depending what sort of animal it is, chirping. All right, and press pause on that. And let's go back to the negative memory again. So notice now how strong are the negative emotions. So 0 to 10, again, just a few seconds. So the idea is we're not trying to find negative emotions. We're just noticing what is there already. So notice how strong, 0 to 10, and then press pause on that and go back to the good feeling. So the color, surrounded by the color and hugging your subject. So you do this back and forth until when you think of the negative memory, there's no negative emotions left. So you can pause this video to do that back and forth until there's no negative emotions left. All right, and remember not to spend time in that memory. You're just noticing. The goal is to have no negative emotions there. Now we're going to change the memory. So the way to change the memory is to literally imagine it differently. It does need to be that memory. So you're not going to replace it with a different memory. That's not possible. It does need to be that memory rearranged. Okay, that's very important. And what we're doing as we are changing this memory is we are changing the pattern of neural activity. So instead of these neurons connecting, then they're connecting with a different set of neurons kind of idea. So you're changing the way the neurons are firing and the patterns in which they're firing. So there's lots of different ways of doing this, and when we work with clients, of course, there's a lot of different techniques we use. So we're teaching you the basic technique. As you think of that memory, what do you wish had happened instead of what happened? So remind yourself this now is just neurons. There's no people in your head, and the event is not actually happening. So because there can be resistance to changing what happened because we feel like, but that's not what happened. And the answer to that is to acknowledge and go, that's true, that is not what happened, and this is just neurons, so it doesn't matter. So for example, I'm going to just use the example I gave when I spoke about my grandfather. I think that was day 2. So the negative memory I had was I was standing in the doorway to my grandparents' bedroom. My grandfather was sitting on the bed with a brown leather belt next to him. So I brought down the negative emotions using that little exercise, and then I imagined my grandfather replaced the leather belt with a feather boa because that's what would be more fun for that memory. So all I did was literally replace the leather belt with the feather boa, imagining a feather boa in its place, and then my grandfather picking it up and playing with the feather boa, and you know that was then a funny memory. Now, we get, of course, when you're first starting this, there can be a lot of variety of resistance and objections. So number one, keep reminding yourself you're changing it for the unconscious part of your brain. You will still remember what originally happened. So this is like when you watch a movie. The unconscious part of your brain believes what you're watching is real, which is why you feel the emotions as if the movie is real, while you consciously still know that it's just a movie. So in the same way, you are changing the data here for the unconscious part of your brain while you will still remember what originally happened. Excuse me. So for that example I just did, I can still tell you that it was a brown leather belt because my conscious mind still remembers that. That's explicit memory. So you imagine it different. Now, there can be part of that resistance is, but that person would never have, I can tell you, my grandfather, for example, in that situation would never have done that. He would never have had a feather boa and played with it. And that's true, and it doesn't matter because the unconscious part of the brain can't use that kind of logic. The unconscious part of the brain can't use logic, can't use reason, can't judge something as unrealistic, and can't tell the difference between reality and imagination. That's why this works, because the unconscious part of your brain believes the new memory is true and real, while you consciously still know that that's not what happened. Another thing is to make it as fantastic as you can. There's no limit to the budget or the special effects inside your mind. You can use magic. So if you're having trouble, let's say I had trouble replacing the belt with the feather boa, I can imagine I've got a magic wand, like Harry Potter, and magic, change it by magic. You can use magic, you can use flying, you can use fictional characters, you can use superheroes. So there is no limit, and make it as incredible and wonderful as you can. What you're aiming to do is to create new resources for the unconscious part of your brain that can produce good feelings and can feel safe and reassuring, to give your brain new references for who you really are, who you are, the new version of you, the new self image and worldview. And then once you've got that, and you can add music, add smells, you can add as much detail as you like into that memory. Then the way that we establish it is by repetition. So just like you would learn a new phone number, you practice that little scene, and it doesn't have to be a long thing. There doesn't have to be lots of dialogue or long moment by moment scenes. It can be one moment in time. So whatever that scene is, practice it over and over. So each time you run that memory, each time you think of the details of that memory, that's neurons connecting. And each time those neurons connect, they start strengthening. You strengthen those connections so they become more established. And do it with the emotion. So as you think of the new memory, make sure that you're focusing on the good feelings of it, because that's going to then help it to be more and more established quicker. And then practice that memory a few times in a row with the good feelings, and then throughout the day. So they say there's about 5 hour window, so you could certainly do it for at least the next 5 hours, practicing it regularly. And then but the more you practice it, the better. So do it for as long as it feels good, and you'll know that it's established when you think of that moment in time, it's the new memory that comes to your mind first rather than the old one. And you'll still be able to remember the old one, so don't worry about that. You're not going to, if you still remember the old one, that's fine, that's expected. It doesn't mean it didn't work. It's just which is the first one that comes to mind. So again, like learning a new phone number, you can still remember you had an old phone number, and you may even remember what it was, but it's the new one that comes to mind when you say, "What's my phone number?" Steve, a word
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Been going on.
Just by way of a personal example of that. Um, Thinking back, I know that this is a memory that we worked on many years ago, and it's just one that's popping up today as you're talking about that. But it's the memory of me back in elementary school, being on the basketball team, and not having any particular aptitude for athletics at the time. Um, Feeling, because I was one of the tallest kids in my class, everybody was asking me, pushing me to be on the basketball team. And that felt good initially. It's like, oh, they all want me to be a part of the team, but I had no training. I didn't have a father that was, knew anything about basketball. Our coach was pathetic. All of those kind of things were working against me. And the little memory that was there was being so inept that I was basically sidelined or kept on the bench most of the time, except for the only game that my father ever came to see me in. And I was so out of what was going on that the coach finally put me in because we were losing so badly that it didn't matter. And I went in and was so disorientated that I actually got the basketball and made a basket for the other team. So it was just this complete disaster, and the embarrassment and the shame and everything that was wrapped up around that memory was so tangible. That as an adult, you remember that, it was a very tangible feeling that was there. So, what I wanted to say about all of that is I know that there's a lot of detail about that memory and stuff that I'm not going to go into right now, but knowing that the work eventually I was able to change that memory to a feeling of being coached by and supported by Michael Jordan. So I've added, for those of you that are not in the States, Michael Jordan, he's probably actually somebody who's now my age, but I've put him in as my coach. And the feeling of what would that have felt like, for that little me that needed that support, and like you said, I've got the soundtrack and I've got the feeling of the excitement of what all of that meant. And I can feel that, tangibly feel the feeling of that, having rehearsed that new movie in my head. So I reshot that entire movie, so that I'm the star of that show, and what the feeling of that and what that actually means and how I'm interpreting myself now as being the superhero in that movie. That also, I'm able to know that I can hold both of those memories. So the old memory of that is there, and the way that it kind of represents in my mind, and it might be completely different for other people, but it's kind of this old black and white footage or this old black and white photograph that's there. So it's like, okay, I know what happened. It no longer holds that feeling of shame or
Hmm.
embarrassment and that was there before. What's there now is the glamour, the bright lights, the music, the excitement of that new
Hmm.
memory. So the ability to hold both in, but the power or the feeling or the knowing, the meaning and the interpretation is
Hmm.
landing on the new memory side.
Right. So thank you, Steve. That's a great example, and I'd forgotten all about that one. As you say, it was a few years ago. So yes, the new memory is for the unconscious part of the brain. It's the first one that comes to mind, and it's the one with all the feelings. And if you try to remember the previous one, you will have access to that. With your cognitive, with your conscious mind, that's explicit memory. You know that that happened, but it doesn't have any power anymore, and it's not the go-to for the unconscious part of the brain.
Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to just quickly add, and I know, we're talking about this process, but I think that the process that we're engaged in doing is about changing the emotional data that is in those original memories, so that we're not necessarily changing the fact that that memory exists. It's just that when we think about it, it no longer holds that
Well,
that same
yeah, I do
feeling
want to
state.
clarify, because that is very, very important. This clarification is that we are absolutely changing the data for the unconscious part of the brain. I think it's really, really important to separate the conscious mind
Hmm.
from the unconscious part of the brain. And it is those two parts that are referring to the two different memories. So the unconscious part of the brain is only referring to the new memory once you've changed it and established it and given it the
Yeah.
emotions. The conscious mind is the one that can think, that's what originally happened. It's
Yeah.
also the part that can think, oh, that was a movie, that was reality, this is a book. Somebody told me something that happened to them. That's the part of the brain that can think of all kinds of things. So it's the part of the brain that can think of a movie without believing it
Hmm.
actually happened. So I think that's
Yeah.
crucial. Um,
I was just kind of making that point to, the objection that we're in the process, or you're in the process of erasing a memory,
yeah,
and that
yeah. Yeah.
we're not we're not doing that kind of thing here.
Yeah, no, you will consciously still be able to remember. Hi,
Hmm.
English speakers. Nice to see you live here. Lovely to have you with us. And Madrone77 says, I tend to forget that there are no limits when creating a new memory. Yes, it can be easy to forget that because, we're so used to limits. But yeah, no limits at all. And the more, and in fact, the more you do it, the more you get used to being able to add all kinds of fun things and expand your imagination and the possibilities and have some fun with it. The bonus
Hmm.
points for making a memory funny. So, you can do all kinds of things. Now, there's a lot of different techniques that we have to overcome when it's difficult to change a memory, or when you have some resistance, or when you can't think of anything, or you can't find memories, or you have too many memories. There's a lot of different techniques we have for that. I will put a link in the description of this video with a playlist of various techniques that I've been adding to over time, so you can check that out. There is also a link in the description of this video to a playlist of demonstrations, so live sessions where you can actually see examples, real life examples of this process in different ways, different techniques, and that kind of thing, and see how it goes from old memory to, or finding a memory, to old memory to new memory. And if you need personal help, there are links in the description as well for practitioners, or to book a call, or for a discovery call, all that kind of thing. So check the links in the description of this video. We have a question there.
Yeah. So the question, yeah,
Zane
go ahead.
Keynes, do you want to read it, or shall I?
No, go ahead.
When
Yep.
when I tried to change one of my bullying memories to standing up for myself, I
Hmm.
found that there is a secondary gain for not standing up for myself, which is so others don't find out I'm being bullied. Oh, that's an excellent
Hmm.
point. And then they say, I'm not sure how to work with these secondary gains. Fantastic. So thank you for that question, Zane Kane. It's a good one. And for this, we use what we call stepping stone memories. I'll explain briefly what that is, and then I will put a link in the description of the video to the full information on that as well. So, stepping stone memories address different aspects of one particular memory. And the way we do that is, so the bullying one is a great example. So, what we would do there is create the first stepping stone memory where you are able to magic with a magic wand, and you are able to create a backup system, or somebody helps you. Then the second one can be you standing up for yourself, and the other people noticing you're being bullied, and that's they come to they support you. So you're changing that piece of data where there's a problem if they find out you're being bullied. And then you can do the standing up for yourself. Now, I also wanted to say that another thing you can do there is ask yourself what would have happened if others had found out you're
Hmm.
being bullied. So you didn't you the secondary gain is that so others don't find out that you're being bullied. What was the reason for that? What would have happened if they had found out? And then change that piece. So, for example, if it had been, if they found out they would judge me, then do it so that they don't, they admire you. You can also bring in Spider-Man, a celebrity, that kind of thing, to address the bully, to stop the bully before they even pay attention to you. So find out what that little you needs in order to address that. It's the fear of being seen as I'm weak and feel inferior. Great, good job. So then make sure that you are your martial arts. You have a martial arts skill, or you have magic, or you are much bigger than everybody than the bullies, or you have a sidekick like Spider-Man. So give that little you the power to be strong, to be bigger, to be stronger, to be able to stand up with power as opposed to feeling weak. I hope that makes sense.
Can I
Um,
just quickly add
yeah,
that, you know, the fear of being seen as weak and inferior, that is something that, and I don't know that if that's the case here, but in working with other clients, that oftentimes if we're having difficulty dealing with the memory as it was, or, at that time, it's like, how did that little you know that there's a foundation of fear there? How do you know it's a bad thing or a fearful
there will
thing to
be
be seen
earlier
as
memories.
weak? So I know in thinking about myself, working with other clients, that, that would have been established at home prior to school or prior to being
Yes,
bullied, that it meant something in your family system
that's right.
to be weak. That I had a father who valued, strength and exhibited or I figured out as an early child or in early childhood that it wasn't safe for me to be seen weak in the presence of my father, my grandfather, that kind of the thing. So
Hmm,
that oftentimes we need to go back and perhaps change some
absolutely.
stuff. So just recognizing that sometimes there's earlier roots to these things as well.
Absolutely spot on. Thank you, Steve, for that. Yes. Zane Kane, if you've got a list of memories, go with earlier ones as well. So see what you experienced before those bullying incidents at school. So, as Steve said, anything at home, change those memories first. So, change the earlier memories first because those are the roots and that's what the others are built on. But hopefully, you'll also be able to use those resources like Spider Man. Being very big or having a martial arts skill, that kind of thing as well. So use magic and so on. The Zane Kane says, thank you. Yeah, there is definitely earlier memories contributed to that fear. Yes.
Yeah, and just quickly, another thing I'm thinking about here in relationship to this question, I had, and I think I put it in the book as well, that bullying memory sequence that I went through and that did start and spent a lot of time working on revising those bullying memories for me. And I was
hmm
able to significantly change, what that felt like. I
hmm
know that I had carried around the terror of being bullied in junior high school most of my life and carried that fear, always looking over my back, knowing that somebody was coming kind of thing. And I was
hmm
able to change that significantly, but there were still roots. There were still other aspects of that bullying memory that eventually I found by going
Earlier
back to earlier memories. So it's not that starting
at
with
home.
we
Yeah.
we definitely can start with those later memories, but just know that we end up I ended up coming to the playground already with,
Yes.
certain fears and certain foundations that allowed me to react in situation to a bully. I already was in a place of fear in that situation as opposed to empowerment. So it's just knowing
Yes.
that we've got and one of the reasons that we are so committed to early childhood changing those early childhood memories is because they're the foundation of everything.
That's it. Absolutely spot on. So, thank you, Steve, for sharing that and clarifying that. And yes, so this is why we want to go for the earliest ones that you can remember. Now, a lot of people say I can't remember anything before
Mhm.
12 years old or 14 years old or something. That's okay. Go with the earliest you can remember. And as you change those, either the unconscious part of your brain will automatically update the others, the earlier ones, or what's most
Hmm.
likely to happen is you will suddenly start to remember. You'll remember one, a memory will come to you and you go, oh gosh, I'd forgotten all about that. Then you can change those. So,
Hmm.
definitely go for the earliest ones first, change those that you can remember, and then come back. So Zane Kane, if you go and change the earlier ones that you have, so in the same with the same process we took you through today, and then come back to these the bullying memory and see how that goes. It'll be easier to change
Hmm.
once you've done that because you won't have those resources. So I hope that helps. But let us know if you need more information or suggestions on that. I was that all that I
I
had
think,
to
just
say?
a reminder again, for, taking a look at that playlist with the live demonstrations.
Yes, yes,
We've
go through
we've put
that.
it out, I know we've put it out there before, but if people are, I remind me that there's a form to fill out if people would like to engage in doing a a bit of live work.
Live
Um,
demonstration. Yes,
a live
yes.
demonstration kind of thing. We're happy to do that kind of thing. There's links in the description of the comments, or in the description of the video, that
Yeah.
if you are feeling that you want to go a little bit deeper or you need a little bit of help with this, there's links to myself and our practitioners. Um,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
I guess a request that we are really loving doing these kind of live little workshop things, and uh, we are planning future ones, but we're also influenced, or we would be happy to entertain those kind of things that people need or want. So please let us know in the comments, or contact us directly on something that you feel like you would like to see us
For
do a
topics.
workshop.
Yeah,
Yeah, topic. Thank you.
topics. Yeah. All right, very good. And so, as always, let us know your questions. We love answering questions, and so leave them in the comments. We will answer them there, and check the links in the description. And we will see you on the next one.